Okay. Yes. Oh, invite Sandra. Complete. Okay, can you guys hear me? I believe you can hear me. If you can hear me, put a message in the chat. This is my first live session, so you guys should kindly bear with me. Yeah, so we're still trying to set things up. My friend Dixon is joining soon, which person is going to be answering all the questions, and I'm just going to be asking him, and then we're going to take questions from the audience. So just give us a minute to just set his own up as well. And once this joins, we just get started. If you can hear all of these things that I'm saying, put a comment in the chat so that I can be sure that the audio is good and you can hear me perfectly. So Now I can see you. I can hear. I can see you. I can't hear you yet, but I can see you already.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Perfect. I can hear you now. Sorry, it's been crazy.
No worries, no worries.
So I already see that the guys are already waiting. I tried. Um, I tried talking for a bit. 10 people are already waiting, so I think we can just get started already. So I will add you to the stage, and myself
Okay,
also to the stage, and then we just get started.
okay.
Yeah. Uh, the only thing is, I would have loved to change my background, but I can't. I don't know how to do that.
So there is in your camera. I mean, look for settings. So I
In
don't
my
know.
settings,
I have a list of options. Mute, background,
virtual
settings,
background.
virtual background.
I can even just blur my background. If I can blur my background, I think that's fine. This is my first time of using this.
Application.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is fine. I'll just blur it if I can blur it so it doesn't look too. Guys, that. Just a minute. I just get a lamp to just make my video better. Yeah. I think this also helps my video to be better now.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we can get started. Are you ready now?
Yes, I am ready.
Perfect.
I am
Thanks
ready.
for doing this.
No worries.
So I can. What do you- Oh, okay. I have to. Um, Perfect. So this works. So now it's live. We are live. I think everybody can hear us already. I'm going to stop the music. I think everybody can hear us already, and then we just get started. I'll check YouTube. I'll check YouTube and see. Oh, perfect. So now we are live. Everything works. I'm sure everybody can hear us. If you can hear us, so that will make this very interactive. Just put your name. Sorry, just let us know in the comment section. I'm going to be trying to monitor YouTube as well and monitor what's happening here. So we will start and go straight to the point. First of all, let me say a big thank you to everyone who is right now on the stream and also who is going to watch this video later. This stream was basically to just appreciate everybody for 1000 subscribers. The funniest part of this is, as I right now that I'm talking to you, I'm already at almost 2400 subscribers. So
Whoa.
between when I schedule this call and this happening, I've had 1400 more subscribers. So special thanks to you guys, and that's why we want to just I want to do this to give back. And if you know anyone who would be who would benefit from this, please share the link to this stream for them. I see a lot of questions on my videos. Some of them I can't even answer. So yeah, you can't comment on the video. I think you have to subscribe before you comment. If check your subscription status before you comment. Otherwise, I think you can't comment. I'm not sure if you're having problems commenting. um but anyways, I've seen a lot of questions on my videos. At the end of this call, maybe by that time we'll let Mr. Dixon go. I would be here to just answer any questions that I can answer. If you have any questions about data science career and stuff like that that you've posted on one of my videos and I've not been able to answer back, please just ask me at the end, and then I would be very happy to answer. But let's just go straight to the point. Today we want to talk about how you can get a data analyst job or a data scientist job in Germany from abroad. Of course, I know there's going to be a lot of Nigerians watching this, but if you're not a Nigerian, but you're not in Germany and you want to get into Germany as a data scientist or as a data analyst or as a data engineer, this call is for you. And I think that if you ask me right now, if anybody wants to come into Germany, jackpot like we say in Nigeria, I think that coming as a tech person is like the easiest route, because first the government wants you to come in. They need hands, and it's also easy than coming in as a even as a student. So yeah, this is actually quite good. So without further ado, everybody already knows me. I will let Mr. Dixon introduce himself, and then I'll just get straight to the questions. I already have some questions prepared to ask him to get to the root of the matter, and then we will take questions also from the audience. So if you have any questions, just put them in the chat, and then we would answer them at the end. So let us do that straight up.
Okay, so I guess this is where I introduce myself, right?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Emmanuel Dixon. I work as a data engineer in Germany. I lead a team of other engineers in in one of my companies, or in my company currently. I've been in Germany for over 4 years. So January 2nd next year would make me 5 years here in Germany. Um, uh, Before moving to Germany, I've worked in different continents of the world, as I would put it. Worked in Nigeria, Africa, and then I worked in Thailand, Asia, which was like a remarkable time. And then I moved to Europe, currently in Germany. So yeah, that's a summary of myself. Do you have any specifics?
Okay, so we can get straight to it. So you said that you were in Nigeria already. Um, why did you decide to come to Germany?
So for me, one of the reasons why I decided to move to Germany was because honestly, most of my friends were here in Germany. So I thought it would be fun. I mean, it's easier to like, so it was, I think it was going to be fun for me to rekindle those relationships because
Yeah,
we all worked in Nigeria together in the same company, and three
yeah,
quarter of those engineers all moved to Germany. So for me, it made sense to also move down to a place where there were already people you could actually
mm,
talk to.
yeah.
There was already an established relationship, so it made sense to also move to that kind of place where you would have your own people there already. So that was the reason why I moved to Germany.
Wow, nice. Your reason for moving is quite different from mine. I I came in as a student, so I guess my case is a little bit different. That's why I also wanted to speak with someone who got a job before they came, because I got a job. I was already here. Of course, I
Mm,
would try to add my own experience to it, but it cannot just be the same for a lot of people who are abroad and trying to get a job and yeah, and so yeah. But thanks for sharing that. Um, let's go to the process now. If I were to be your friend and I was in Ghana, I was in Nigeria, I'm in the US, I'm in the UK, I mean anywhere, I'm in Canada, and I just feel okay, Germany is the place I want to be. I want to get a job as a data analyst, or I want to get a job as a data engineer in your case. How is the process like? What do you think I should be thinking about first of all? Where should I even start the process from at all?
okay.
Basically.
Great. So for me, I would share my own experience, right? How I went about mine. So what I did was I took out time to look for companies that I was interested in, right, in Germany. So every morning I would go to Glassdoor, right? I would go to there's this other one they use in the UK. I can't remember. Indeed, yes.
Indeed,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, so but majorly I focused on two websites, Glassdoor and LinkedIn. And what I was doing was just looking for companies within Germany. So I had like a notification set up on my LinkedIn that would automatically notify me for jobs within Germany. So that's the first thing I did. And then I would go to each of those companies, and then I would go through, try to see if their mission and yeah and values aligns with what it is I wanted, and then I would make an application. And then also I also targeted companies where I knew some of my friends, or I probably had a Nigerian. So when I see a company I liked, a company I was interested in, I would go to the LinkedIn page. I would try and see people who were working there, and if I found a Nigerian, I would
Mm,
then reach out to say, hey, I saw this role. Do you think this is it, and I'm interested in it. What do you think? What are the available opportunities there? Some responded, some did not respond, basically. So I got used to it, but I kept on pushing it, and that was what happened. I think how I got my job was the same way. I just saw an opportunity on one of the companies, then Trivago. It's a well-known company, and
Yeah.
then I just looked for. And interestingly, LinkedIn just showed me that, hey, you know people, you have contacts that work here, right? So
Mm.
I reached out to my friend who was working there at the time, and I said, hey, um, this I see this role on your company's page. Could you recommend me? Could you refer me? And he
Yeah.
did that basically. So those were the steps I did. And even before I got to him, prior to that application, I always was doing that. I applied to different companies in Germany using that same process. Go to LinkedIn, go to Glassdoor, look for those companies, and then send out my resume. I think I got a couple of companies. At least I got interviews for some of those
Mm.
companies. Yeah. So that was
Yeah,
that
I
was hard.
mean, that's impressive. You know, I didn't think about that actually. That so I guess what you're trying to do at that point is because you're a foreigner or you are an outsider, you're trying to
Mm.
understand how it works inside the company through somebody that can relate with you, which is
Yes.
which
Yes.
is quite important. I actually didn't think about that because the I think that the processes for each of the companies might vary, but if
Yeah.
you speak with somebody who is out inside, and if the
Mm.
person is Nigerian, the person will be able to actually even put you through and say, okay, this is what is happening, this is the team that probably are in, which
Yeah.
is I remember when I was looking for a job as a data scientist, my first job, so I was applying to this. It was actually even an internship I was trying to get then. So I was trying to get either if an entry level role or an internship. I
Mm.
was applying to this company and I found a Nigerian guy there who was
Mm.
working as a data engineer. It's a company in Munich, and
Mm.
of course the guy ghosted me. He didn't reply. But I was I of course people are busy and I don't even know hold it against him. But I just found that that approach is actually quite good because if the guy had some info and he replied to me, that
Mm.
info make will arm me better, would make me better prepared than somebody who is outside. And also
Yeah.
talking about somebody who is inside, I had a colleague who got a job as a data scientist in my team from Nigeria. Like my
Yeah.
company really helped him with the visa process, and this is why I also tell people that look, this thing is way busy. It's way better than coming in as a student. If you are coming in as a student now, they'll be telling you to look for blog account money and all. But if
Mm.
you get a job, the company will be helping you through your visa process. If you want to come with your wife or if you have kids, they will do all of that also for you. I just connected with this guy on, I think it was on Telegram. We met. He was asking some questions and I
Mm.
had seen his name, and they had already told us that this is the name of the person that is coming to join the team. So I was like,
Mm.
this name looks similar. So I basically reached out to him, and if I had more info and he was still looking for a job at the time, I would have been the
Mm.
best person to talk to, you know. So yeah, really, really good. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about, let's say you found a job, like you said, you were using Indeed and LinkedIn, for example.
LinkedIn and Glassdoor.
And Glassdoor, yeah, LinkedIn and
Yeah.
Glassdoor. I think Indeed is also a good one. And this German LinkedIn version Zing.
I mean, as at then, the two platforms I knew were Glassdoor and LinkedIn. Those were the two that I knew. I mean, LinkedIn from experience because I'd gotten a job directly from LinkedIn,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
Glassdoor was another. Then it was, I think, it was quite popular for us in Nigeria. So those were the two platforms as at then that I knew very well.
yeah. That's I just put it in. I've never gotten a job on with Zing before. I just put
Mm.
it in the chat anyway for anybody who wants to maybe explore. Zing is also a very popular one in Germany. Yeah. So maybe we can say, let's say you get a job.
Mm.
Of course, one thing that makes this whole process work is the fact that in Germany I believe somehow you leg is needed. The whole if you know someone it helps, but it's not as crazy as it is in Nigeria. So that's why this whole process can work. Like if you don't know anybody and you're good enough to hire you,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
fun.
Absolutely.
So let's say
Absolutely.
that you found a job and you want to
Mm.
apply.
Mm.
What would you advise anybody outside of Nigeria to really show on their CV? Or how would you ask them to package their CV? Because I'm just thinking for the companies who is trying to hire from Nigeria, you have to be exceptional. If they've
Hmm.
looked throughout the whole world, or if you are in the UK and you're coming down here from anywhere, you have to have looked throughout Germany and be like, there's nobody we can find. What would you? How would you advise anyone to try to sell themselves?
That's a very good question. And in answering that question, I apply that principle to me till date. Is the fact that I on my resume I try as much as possible to capture. I call them highlights, but these highlights
Mm,
are quite measurable highlights, right? So I do not tell a lot of story. Personally, I just love that my resume is just a one page, and as much as
mm,
possible, I try to make it. What's the word? I try to make it. There's this word that I try to pick the anybody who's reading my resume. I try to pick their interest. So I don't tell them in details, but I also tell them just enough so they can ask me questions further, right? So I have my resume tailored in that way with my name, a bit of my contact, my email, my location currently, and that's it. And then I have a photo. I mean, some people say it's not nice to have a photo, but I have a photo of myself on my resume.
mm,
Uh, and then the next thing on my resume is my experience. So I usually take the top four and try to ensure that this top four I capture them as highlights, right? The last four experiences that I've had, I capture them as highlights. And in that highlight, what I specifically do is that I put in things that I have done. I can defend it, like things I have
mm,
literally worked on, and I can
mm,
defend them because in the interview that knowledge would be obvious. And being in a position to also hire people, I have seen occasions where people send their resumes to me, and then I look at the resume, and then when we go for the interview or when I join the interview and I ask questions based on the content of that resume, it's
mm,
just so obvious that there's a knowledge gap between what is written versus what this person actually knows.
mm,
Be sure that whatever you're putting on your resume is indeed what it is you have done, or indeed what it is that you know and you can defend, right? Now, the next thing I do is that I quantify the impact of whatever it is I have done. So, an example would be if I worked in a company and I worked as a data engineer, and my job included helping people with helping devs or anyone with business insights. I would quantify that to say I helped grow the business by X%. So I would measure the impact of what my job does every day. So it's not just about helping the team, but sit back a bit and ask yourself, okay, this thing I'm doing before I joined the team, how was it? Right? And then how then is it now? So that gives you an idea of what you can measure. Was it zero? And then gradually you can measure that. So those are the things I do on my resume. Always ensure that I have valid milestones that are that are measurable. Then I put them there basically. And then also being in tech, so that I don't go back and forth with recruiters, because some recruiters have like specific technologies they want people to have before engaging them. So I
mm,
specify those technologies I have worked with. And again, these are technologies I have at least 50 to 70% knowledge of, right? In-depth knowledge of, that you can wake me and say, hey, do you know what this is? I'll say, yes, I've worked with this. I know this. And some could also be theoretical, where you've worked, probably read in-depthly about it, etc. So, but the most important thing is that you can speak about it confidently, right? Confidently.
mm,
I put that on my resume. And then, of course, I have a section where I highlight some of my achievements. So these are not just work related, but also highlight moments. Probably you increased some things that you do outside work. So there's the career focus, and then there's also the relational part of your resume. So I try to include at least two highlights that shows that okay, I'm someone who can relate well on a team, basically. So you
mm,
always have to ensure that the recruiter sees that you're someone who's a team player on your
mm, mm.
resume. So those are some of the things. I mean, that's just the synopsis of what I put on my resume. To date, that is what it looks like, and
Wow.
simple as that. Yeah.
I mean, that's good advice, actually. Very good advice because I've also had to hire a couple of times and I see people lie on their CV, which is quite, that's why I sincerely don't buy this whole idea of somebody helping you package your CV. This whole CV people that are paid pay money to other people to write their CV. It never works because when you get to the place and I see some things on your CV, and why that is key is sometimes when people hire for roles, they are hiring because maybe there's a problem they want to get solved.
Absolutely.
And so when they want to hire you, they are hiring you based on the fact that you have a knowledge that you're going to bring to the team to help them solve that problem. So once you show that thing on your CV, you have to come there to defend and say, indeed I know this thing. And I've seen people feel it
Mhm.
that a lot. Yeah, so really, really good about highlighting your project. I also talk about that a lot on my channel as too. If you want to get a job, you have to talk about your project, key project. In fact, my video that is live now talks about project as well. So, but anyways, guys, if you have anybody that you think that this live is going to be very important for, please share the link so that he can join. And Mr. Dixon here is going to answer questions. I will also try to answer questions at the end. So make sure you share the live, share the live, share the live. um Maybe we move on. So now we've talked about you can find a job on some specific websites. You can reach out to people internally to try to get some info. Now you can prepare your CV, send to them, this is what should be on your CV. If we move a little bit away from that, how would you say the whole process is like? What comes first? So now let's say that you've applied to the job, they hire you. How is the process like? What comes first, what comes second, and what should you prepare for at each stage?
That's a good question. So I'll take it that, so again, like your question states, when you, the assumption here is that you've been hired, right?
So I mean, like you've applied and they want to
Okay.
interview you.
Oh, okay.
You get what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think so from there on, it depends on different companies have different processes. Some companies have some companies have two-stage interview. Like for me, it was a two-stage interview. Technically, two-stage interview. The first was directly with the with the I think with the hiring team. They sent me a take-home test.
Mm,
I had a conversation with the hiring manager immediately, and then he said, "Oh, okay, talk about you." We had a brief conversation, and says, "Okay, I'll send you a test." And then he sent me a test, and then I worked on the test. It was take home then, and then when I was done, I reverted, sent it to him, and then he also had like another stage where we talked about the outcome of the event of the test that I did. So he wanted to understand how I was thinking through it, and which is, I would emphasize here, which is very important. Again, I mentioned that you have to know exactly it is what you're doing, because in these stages, particularly where the actual test of your knowledge is. And so if you have someone help you do that take home test, ensure ensure very well that you know every detail of whatever code has been implemented in it, because you are going to be asked, right? You're going to be asked. And the questions are just very, very simple questions. And these questions are aimed at evaluating your very basic knowledge of concepts. And I can tell you for a free that even as I've been opportune to hire people. That's what I look out for. People can always learn technology, right? It's easy to learn any new technology, but if you look at it very well, technology operates with every technology, it operates on the same simple basic steps, right? Basic rules, right? So programming, the semantics can be different for each programming language, but
mm,
the syntax might be different for each programming language. I beg your pardon, but the semantics would stay the same, right? So you should know an example when to use a loop statement as an example. Very basic. That concept has to live with you. You have to know it, basically. So after that process, where I was they asked me to say, okay, talk us through your solution. And then I went through the solution. They asked me questions on why I decided to choose one approach over the other, just trying to test my knowledge, like the basic of what it is I said I knew indeed. And that went well. And then the last stage was just, okay, we think that you're a good fit. Let's see how you fit into the team. And that was it. For some other companies, they go through like 5 stages. I
mm,
think when I switched companies, I had to go through that 5 stages, and they aimed at testing my knowledge in all of the respective areas they think I would work in. So I work in a cross-functional team, so different teams, but within another team. So like your team works across multiple teams or works with multiple teams. So they wanted to figure out how I could fit into all of the problem statements that affected all the other teams. And so that was when I had to go through like five stages of interviews. Again, still testing the basic knowledge of what I said I knew and I put on my resume, basically. And after that, of course, you get the offer. I know I'm going to just talk about this real very briefly. This is where I know that in Nigeria, with the purpose of everyone intending to leave, the first offer that comes to you, you are happy to just take it and say, you know what, I'm moving. But always push for one more time. Just push ahead. Always ask to say, hey, no, I think that you can do better. Why? Because the moment you receive that offer coming from Nigeria, that's going to impact your growth rate technically within Germany. So your first offer kind of impacts your growth rate. Seeing that again, the market's the way it is now, where there are lots of other people out there, there's
Mm,
going to be a benchmark. So ensure that you are aiming for at least something good enough that's going to sustain you for a while. And the reason is I don't know, but personally, I don't switch jobs every 6 months. So I try to ensure that I bargain for something that would at least last me for a year, right?
yeah, yeah.
And then I would then say, okay, we'll go back to the drawing board again to say, evaluate my performance, right? Benchmark versus the value I bring, benchmark the remuneration, and then I can say, okay, either you take it up a notch or well, yeah, so that's it. So usually always do that. And then after that, the next bit is then the visa application stage, which is usually bottle, the pain in the neck, right? So the
Wow.
bottle, yeah, it's usually from
Isn't
Nigeria.
it
Is usually,
supposed to be seamless? Like once you get a job, they
yeah. I mean, luckily, some of the roles were changed. I think after I moved, the
mm,
process was now made easier. But from my time just before I moved, it was hard. I actually got declined an offer because of the wait time for getting an appointment date in Nigeria. So the company were like, they asked me to say, hey, we like you, we think that we want to proceed with you. And then they asked me one question: how long do you think it takes to get uh how long do you think you would need to before you can get your visa to move here? And I was naive then, so I didn't really know. I just gave them blotted out a number. I just said 3 months should be fine. And then I called my friend again. That's another reason why it's good that you always speak up to people who are already here. They would
mm,
view perspective. So when I immediately I said 3 months, and then I called my friend. I said, hey, I mentioned to this guy that it's going to take them 3 months. The guy was like, no, I waited for like 7 months to get an appointment
what?
date. Like, what? It's 7, 8 months. And then they also mentioned to me afterwards that they had someone in Nigeria who was working with them, and he has been waiting for an appointment date for a year, and they weren't sure if they could wait that long. So they opted for someone who was already in Europe. That's how I lost that opportunity. So yeah,
Wow.
I would say maybe it wasn't my opportunity. It wasn't. It wasn't. That wasn't the right opportunity for me again. So maybe yeah, my fate. So sorry to digress, but talking a bit about about my own beliefs. Maybe that wasn't my right. Maybe that wasn't a good fit for me. Indeed,
Mm,
I probably wasn't. So they said no, we couldn't wait for so long. So they reverted to someone who was already in Europe. So and then after I moved, then the process became easier. So now people get appointment dates for jobs very quickly. Yes, so compared to what it was like 3 years, 3, 4, 5 years ago when I moved, it was quite a challenge.
wow.
So you get the visa, and then the next thing is you travel. So uh, now this is where you have to put into consideration when you are traveling, basically. So a bit of more context. I moved to Germany in the thick of winter, January, and I wasn't told.
I knew what you were going to say. Let me just laugh first.
I wasn't told.
Wrong
So
time.
I mean, I thought that, when I was moving, coming from a very our own kind of temperature, right? Kind of
Yeah.
environment, which was, I mean, I was asking my friends were like, it's cold. I was like, how cold can it be? Is, it's like the freezer. I was like, come on, freezer that I put my hand in now. Just come on. It can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. I didn't realize that there's a difference between the freezer you put your hand in when you open it from time to time versus when you live in that freezer, right? So that was quite the first culture shock I had. And I arrived, and then I got I got to the airport, went through immigration, and I was going outside, and the door opened. I ran back in. Like, I wasn't prepared for that level of cold. I had to stay there for a while, bring out my jackets. And you know that before you travel in winter, you go and buy some jackets at Yaba. That's not it. Those jackets do not hold this kind of cold. So luckily, I had one thick leather jacket that someone had gifted me. So I took it and I wore that. So again, depending on the season or the time you are moving, always make sure that you are ready for the weather. That's something that um, can be quite challenging. So that was one of the things. That was one of the first challenge I had. And then I tried to settle in into the environment. So it was winter, and here winter is kind of for newcomers, it's kind of challenging because everywhere gets dark quite early, and everyone is you know everyone is just focused on what it is that they are doing. So no one wants to stay outside for too long. Just wants to go to the office. After office, head into the tram or train and get back home and stay in the warmth of your house. So it was quite a bit difficult to then make friends. The only friends I could try and make were the people at work generally. So that was that. And then again, there are other factors that come in. I mean, the psychological impact of leaving your friends, your family, it then begins to tell on you after a while, right? If you, especially in the season in which I came, and then COVID happened when I came. 3 months after I came, COVID happened. Or 2 months after I came, COVID started in March. So 2 months after I came, COVID hit. We were completely isolated. It was quite a difficult period. So psychologically, I was tested. I was really tested psychologically. It was not easy, but thankful to God that I was able to pull through. So yeah, it was quite a ride, and then that happened, and then you had to face work, and then also the challenges that come with work as well. Because sometimes, I mean, as much as we want to deny it, sometimes as professional or as good as we are, sometimes we are faced with something called imposter syndrome, where you feel you're not good enough to be here. But then it's a reality that happens in sometimes. Sometimes it's not something we can run away from. So sometimes it hits us, and you're like, oh no. But then you have to encourage yourself. Again, this is where your support systems are important, like the friends you have, the community you network with, right? Probably if you're a Christian who goes to church, the church you connect with, etc., etc. So all of these things play a very pivotal role in your life. So this is where they could help you, and you also have to build a resilient mentality to say, I can pull through this, etc., and then leave it up. So that was that. And then accommodation was something, I know we don't talk about this very often, but accommodation was another challenge. It was quite interesting to get accommodation. And then when you scale that hurdle, yes, then you then begin to gradually ease in to the life. And then also language, that's another thing that comes. You have to prepare your mind to actually learn the language, to integrate fully into the society, basically. And so that's something that I had to also at back of my mind. I wasn't prepared to switch languages, and the language can be a bit steepy when you're learning it. So the learning curve is a bit steepy. So you have
Mm,
to prepare your mind that you want to learn this, and you want
mm.
to learn it. So that was the whole summary. I just tried to make it summarize everything, but yeah, if there are specific questions, of course, I'll be happy to give more details.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you so much. So you've said a lot of things. I mean, following from what you talked about the interview, I think those are very important. Is there? I would ask this later. So guys, I would also take your questions now. So also begin to put your questions in the chat. I will start from the topmost ones. Then you talked about the first role, and I think that's important as well because I was just looking at myself as you spoke that when I took my job, when I was looking for my first data role, I had two offers. Now looking back, I'm happy that I took the one I took because the other one was an internship position. So I was just wondering if I had started with that internship position. I don't right now I lead a team. I don't think maybe I would have moved so fast as to because I would have probably spent 1 year in that internship position first off, then get promoted to junior level, then move to maybe mid level, entry level, and stuff like that. Mid level and then senior. But right now, because I started already very high, which was a bit difficult, but I was able to scale pretty fast. And the what you also said about salary negotiation is actually very important. And I think for someone who is looking for a job from abroad, it's important that they actually do your due diligence to know how much you are worth in the country you're applying to. So if it's Germany, you should know how much it is so that you don't get underpaid. And then when you then get here, you are now really struggling with the amount of money because you have to pay your bills after taxes. And I mean, these are realities that probably don't eat people until
Until
they move down. So maybe one question back to the interview process. And one thing I also wanted to say, the visa thing that you talked about is very important as well. The guy that I said that was hired in my team as a data scientist from Nigeria, we also had a lot of problems with his visa as well. So his visa, they kept postponing, 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 postponing. In fact, the company kept giving him 1 more month, 1 more month. The last one they gave him, the last like 15 days they gave him to be able to get visa was when he got it. I was
yeah.
just really happy for him because otherwise they will have rescinded the offer just like they did for you, and that would have been the end of all everything. But really good. One question that I want to ask before I probably go into the chat. So if you have questions, already put them in the chat now. The interview process. Are there any um websites or materials that you think would be very helpful to anyone trying to like prepare for this interview, that you think as a data engineer or as a data analyst or data scientist that you think maybe is specific to Germany, things that they can read or anything that you can recommend basically for anybody to get their minds ready?
Okay, so for me, I would call it a hack. One of the hacks I did was that, again, I went to Glassdoor, and there's a
Mm,
section on Glassdoor for the company you are interviewing for, where people who have had like interviews there would come and share similar experience, right? So what their interview experience was. So that was the leverage I used. So I would go to Glassdoor, go to that interview section, and check out for things that I considered or heads up to some of the questions that were asked, and then I would read through some of the topics that were asked, and then I would go research, go read up more on, basically. So that was what I did. Well, so, and it was helpful not just for the company that had me hired, but for almost every company. So I understood that yes, one of the things that you're going to be as anyone. So again, I'll break this down. So then maybe I should give more context. So depending on the role, so if you're moving into a junior role or entry level role, so junior role or entry level role, you probably want to work more on algorithms, right? So in
mm,
this data part, especially when you're doing data, everything you know about data, right? So if you're doing data science, your Python skills should be up to date. Like
mm,
your data engineer, you should really know algorithms, complexities. Those are them data structures. That's something very important because you'll be tested within the confines of your code, right? You're going to be asked, why did you do this? And if you have very intelligent engineers who are interviewing you, they would ask you why you opted to probably do this way and why not do it this way, basically. So those kind of that knowledge and data structures would be very helpful. And for I mean, and then going to data, you have to, your SQL knowledge has to be very good. When I mean very good, I mean very good. So what I mean with very good is that you should understand why, the difference between whatever it is that you're doing. So an example would be, when should I use a having clause versus when should I use a where clause? This is something that you should know. You should be able to explain that to anyone. Like, so you have to understand the basics of what data is, right? SQL, what it does, your understanding of writing queries, when you use an inner join, when you use a left join, because that's what you're going to be asked. And then some companies would ask you for data modeling, which is, I think, for these roles is standardized. I think it's standard. All the companies I have interviewed for, that's one thing they always ask me: can you model this data? They give you a bunch of things and tell you to model that data. And some other companies, I think, if I remember correctly, I don't know if they still do it, but when I was still looking for jobs, then Zalando and Delivery Hero, they always give you this something called codility, where they give you
Yeah.
SQL questions, and then you have to answer the questions within a time limit, and then you have a higher score, a lower score, and depending on what it is they set, or what the average it is they want, they let you go. So your knowledge of SQL. So these are where you can actually practice lots of these questions using HackerRank. HackerRank
Mhm.
has sections for SQL, for Python, where you can play with interview-like questions to build your knowledge of data structures and SQL. And then the other bits they are going to also ask you is your interpersonal relationship, right? So just see if you're a good fit for any team. So they would ask you questions about, I think most companies are now adopting the STAR approach: situation, task, action, and results. So they ask you what the situation was, what the task was, what your actions were, and what the results were, basically at the end of that. So it's just basically asking you, hey, have you ever had a scenario where you were faced with this challenge? How did you work around it? What were your actions, and what results were obtained after the entire process? So that's something that you should think about. And you can't lie through this particular part. You can't lie through it, because they would definitely see your answer through. They would see you, your personality, through your answers.
Mhm.
So these questions are not. This is the part that you can't be told anywhere, because depending on the role, depending on the team you would be joining, these are the questions they would be asking you. So just ensure that you've had relevant experience. And if you haven't, please be honest. And that's another thing. In your interview processes, or while you're having your interview, be as honest as possible. Even if you don't get the job, but be very transparent. It saves you a lot of time, number one. And number two, it helps the manager or the hiring manager know, it helps them think ahead, if they can actually make room or plans for you to grow within the team, basically. So your
Mhm.
honesty is quite important, basically. If you come and say, hey, I know this, but I don't know this, they already would know, okay, we need this person. He has all of this, but he needs to work on this. And I'm saying this from experience, because there are people we've hired and we know that they lack relevant knowledge or skill. And we already make provision for them on the team. So we get someone to work with them. Immediately they resume, just to build that knowledge gap. So this is something that is very important. And this is not like Nigeria, where if you are honest, the QK will know. If they like you and they think that, I mean, they're not looking for 100%. If you have 80% of the qualities they require, of course, they are going to hire you. And then they expect that you will grow on the job. You would learn more on the job. So they would make provision for those things for you. So please be honest and transparent.
Mm. Good,
So,
good. Thank you. Good. Yeah. You still wanted to add more?
no, no, that was it.
Okay. Good, good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you about that honesty. As an hiring manager myself, that helps me a lot. So yeah, let me just say a few things as well. A few companies that I can probably also, like you were talking about, some companies that I know are big time companies that hire in Germany are Delivery Hero. Delivery Hero. I can put the name. I can put the name in the chat. Delivery Hero is a big one. Zalando is a big one. There are quite a lot of components. But let me take questions now. So if you have any questions about everything we've said so far, getting a job in Germany, and you have a question directly to Dixon. Dixon is someone who's done it before, been there, done it. Just ask now. So I take a few questions before I go back to my question. One that I saw here that is quite that I think is a good one. It says this is from Damilola. Let me see if I can project the questions. I think I should be able to project the questions, the comments. Does that show here? Um, okay. I think I can show the questions. Okay, so one is how do you identify jobs with visa sponsorship?
Good question. So, most of the job roles they would specify it there to say, in fact, that's part of the things that they offer as part of the job description. They will tell you,
Mm,
we are able to help you relocate with your family or whatever. They would specifically tell you, we help with relocation. They would specify it there in the jobs, in the job details. So that's what you should look out for. Look for jobs that have that specified. Other ones are some, if you have like big companies in Germany, I think is also part of their way of attracting talent. So they would automatically include that for you, relocation
mm,
uh, processing, basically. So for smaller companies that might not have uh, traction or they are not as big as the large corporations, please in the job description always look for that. This always stated whether they are going to help you with visa sponsorship or not. And if you are still not clear, you can. There's always um, a hiring personnel's email there. You can send an email to the person to ask that question
mm,
specifically to say, hey, this role, do you offer um, visa or relocation packages? And if the answer is yes, of course, go ahead and apply.
okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. So one person is asking here, guys. If you've asked the question before, try to ask it again because there's a lot of messages here, and I might not be able to just find your question. So somebody's asking, what level of German language does one need to work as a data analyst? I would just say as maybe a data analyst or a data scientist in Germany. What do you think? Is German very important? If you don't have German, can you still get a job? Basically.
Yes, so I moved to Germany with my zero knowledge of German. So zero, absolutely zero knowledge of
Yeah.
German. So you can get a job with absolutely zero knowledge of German. But
Mhm.
again, this information is contained in. They would always most times specify this in the job description. So in some companies, they would specify if they require German. So if they are traditional German companies that would require you to work with most of their clients being Germans, they would specify to say, hey, basic knowledge or this level of German is needed. But if that is not included, they would also specify to say it's, you would hear terms like what's the multicultural or ethnicity within the team. So those are like pointers to say, okay, you don't need to have any knowledge of German. You just need to be good at what you say you are good at. And that's
Mm.
it.
Yeah, I would say it's the same for my experience. My company, for example, we have French shareholders, so we have a lot of French colleagues, and we are in Germany. We work with some colleagues also in the US, and so English is just even the normal language you see people chat with on Slack. If you chat with any different language, they will ask you, "Sorry, English is the universal language." And there's a lot of companies, startups like that in Berlin, and the fact that Berlin is also described as the startup capital of Europe, at least the way they say it. English is so if you can speak English, you can get by with English. You'll be fine, really. You'll be fine. One question. This is more towards experience, and I would really love your take on this one. This is more towards experience. So this person is asking, this is Elijah Bassi, is asking for some of us who are maybe not privileged to get a job as a data analyst or a data scientist in Nigeria. So this person is in Nigeria, but doesn't have a job yet, but they've been building project and building their portfolio. Do such people stand a chance? So I think the direction the person is asking is if you are entry level, let's say you haven't worked as a data engineer or a data analyst or a data scientist or an ML engineer before, do you have a chance to get an entry level position in Germany? What do you think?
Yes, absolutely, you can. So again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning. Ensure that what you are putting on your resume are measurable. That's very, very important. So whether you're doing it as a freelance project or you're doing it within an organization, as long as you're the one who did it and you can
Mm,
measure it, you can talk about it, and you know about it so much, then you can always get it. So I mean, that's being a hiring manager as myself as well. That's something I also look out for. I try to be sure that if you're just sending in your resume or if I'm having conversations with you, I want to hear the problems you've solved. It's not about how many organizations that you might have worked in or how long you stayed in an organization, but the impact. At the end of the day, you're going to be hired for the perceived value that you'll be bringing to the table, or the perceived problem that we have, and we think that you can be a solution to. So
mm,
always ensure that you have that captured in your resume and you can speak about it, you can talk about it, like own it, own your story. Like I would always say, own your story, know what it is you've done, and be ready to tell that story.
mm, mm. Thank you so much. Um, Another question that I have here, I just take a couple more so that I don't keep you.
Sure,
So
sure.
sorry, everybody, Mr. Dixon has to go at some point. So if you have your question, put it now in the chat. If I don't see your question, then once I'm done, then I'll just let him go, and it will only be me here. So this person is saying, okay, wait a minute. This is Coach Ola. This person is saying, I currently work as a data scientist and as a data coach. A
Mm,
friend advised me to gain more experience here in Nigeria, then seek for a job abroad afterwards. What do you
mm.
think?
Um, my personal opinion would be that doesn't matter whether you seek more experience in Nigeria or you seek it abroad, it doesn't matter. I actually am of the opinion that you should challenge yourself to get a job abroad, basically. And I'll tell
Mm,
you why. My perspective is this. So it got to a point that I told myself I wanted to work with other brilliant minds. Nigeria is good, to be honest. Depending on the companies you work with, it's
mm,
fine. But one disadvantage that you have is that you work with almost people of the same background, if I put it that way, right?
mm,
So in terms of technology, it's going to be almost the same similar thing. But here abroad, you have the options of trying out things. Some people just hire you just because they want to try an idea, right? They're not
mm,
sure if it's going to scale or not. They go to
mm,
investors and say, we want to do this, and then investors are willing to part way with their money. I don't think that's the same in Nigeria. I mean, in the
mm,
past, it used to be that way when I worked in like some early startups then, which was very fun. But now it's more profit oriented. With the state of the economy, I don't think any investor would just put money and not expect to get a return. But Europe here it's that's where the difference is. Like people are willing to try out things. People are willing to allow you learn new things, basically. So please and put your best foot forward. I think that's how you even gauge yourself to know if you are ready for the international market or not.
mm,
Because the more you keep trying to gain experience in Nigeria, you just be within the local league. But the moment you put your foot forward and you apply for international jobs, what that does is that you can checkmate yourself to say, hey, I require this certain level of knowledge in this area to become internationally um, recognized.
mm, mm. Wow, wow. Yeah, that's good. I actually I actually agree what you said. Because when I came for my master's, it was a different ball game entirely. You know, as a
Uh,
guy that I was on the first class in UI, first year, second year, and I had a very good grade and I finished with. I mean, when I got to here, it was different. You just see some guy from Russia who has been solving math problems from from. You just be like, which kind of guy is this? And that's when I began to really see that the whole thing was different. So yeah, if you really want to think global, you want to challenge yourself with the best of the best around the world. Just see where you are, and it also helps you to then improve. And you would easily find that in an international organization easily,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
easily. And the opportunities generally they are also limitless. Really, think about, you can migrate here. there are better chances also for your family. Also, there's which is one of the reasons why I'm even trying to even talk about this. Your kids as well, you have a better chance for life and all of those kind of things. Maybe one last question since I don't see any new. Yeah.
So I was going to also add that to that point you mentioned. So um, there are people actually here who started problem solving at a very young age,
Mm,
basic. Like, so imagine yourself in contrast to that, or in side by side with that kind of person. You realize that you will be challenged early. For most of us, we picked programming after university, right? It took
mm,
us for some of us during university days, and then for some other people much later after university, and some people they decided to switch fields, right? And in Nigeria, all of these categories you can find the playing field is kind of similar. It's average. It's the same across, right? Some companies will tell you, "I want to hire you as a data scientist, and I want you to do this." You go through a rigorous interview process, but when you join the company, you're only working on Excel as a data
mm,
scientist. That doesn't help your career in any way. But moving abroad for yourself, you're going to see that yes, like when I mean data, you would see how people actually use data, and
mm,
that's that I don't think in Nigeria we have that. There are very few companies that you can say uses that volume of data. Maybe the fintech, and fintechs are maybe like NIPS, because NIPS they do like a huge volume of transactions every day, or maybe like so. Other than that, the rest of the companies, I don't think that they have that volume of data. So you're talking about data in terabytes, right? And you know the complexities that come with managing or scaling these kinds of data for whatever application you're building. So this would come as a challenge to you. So again, this is where you have to test yourself against the normal, like the level playing field you have in Nigeria or locally versus what you have internationally.
thank you so much. That's actually quite profound. One question here. This is quite straightforward. This person is asking, is it possible to get a data science job after 32 years of age? Why not? My opinion, what do you think?
That I mean, you can get your job at 40, at 50. It's at
As long
any,
as you're
as
good.
long as you're good at it. Yeah. And interestingly, I think I would say this, interestingly, there are openings for these roles. It's just that they are not skilled. Like we talk about it a lot to say, you data analysis, data scientists, data. The interesting thing is that if you go to most companies today, they are actually looking for people to fill these roles.
Mm,
So the demand is high.
demand is there. Demand
The-
is there.
yeah,
Mm. I know, for example, Germany talks a lot about the skilled immigrants. They are doing, for example, this new visa that they brought out again. I know,
jobs.
just to job seeker visa, just to bring in new people to come and fill the roles, and so the demand is there. The demand is there. Demand is
Maybe
there.
just to even give the person more clarity. So before when I moved from Nigeria, the company that hired me, they waited 6 months. They were looking for an engineer for 6 good months. Like they were looking
Wow.
for a data engineer for 6 good months. Like they were literally searching. And even when he gave me the offer, they even told me we'll wait extra 4 months for you to join. Like take the time you need, get your visa sorted, and we'll wait for you to join. So that's to show you how high the demand is, basically. Especially when they find someone who is good and they think can solve their problem. So regardless of whatever age, they're going to hire you.
Wow. Crazy, crazy. I mean, yeah. Once you're good, once you're good, once you're good, everybody wants to have you. That's the thing. I see, like for example, talked about Delivery Euro. Guys, you can check it out. The company I mentioned before, they are one of the big, they're one of the top recruiters in Berlin here, and they have a lot of Nigerians there. But when you see those guys, I'm friends with some of them, and you know that okay, this person is good. That's why they would bring them all the way from Nigeria.
Mhm.
Um. Okay, so the questions are now coming in, but I'll probably take a few. How many more minutes do you still have for? So I don't keep you
I,
long.
I still think I have about 30 more minutes. I can do 30 more minutes. Yeah.
Okay, good. So I don't keep you long.
No, no, it's
Um, the question here is, as data professionals, what is the role? Oh, no, no, I don't want to answer questions about not getting a job in Germany and all. Any question about data science, we can answer that. I want to maximize the time I have with Mr. Dixon as much as possible. So what is the option of remote jobs? So I think this person is asking in the direction of wants to get a job in Germany but prefers to stay back at home with family in Nigeria. What's the option of that?
again, so it goes back to this company. So before COVID happened, there wasn't anything like remote jobs. Most companies wanted you on site, and that was a good thing. So having a remote job and staying back in Nigeria has its pros and cons. And from experience, I have friends who decided to go that route, and after a while, it wasn't just feasible, it wasn't scalable. They had to move. Number
Mm,
one was the fact that for a very good friend who had a job in Nigeria, had a job in Germany but working in Nigeria, they were required from time to time to meet up, right? They were required to travel
mm,
from time to time. And so, after a while, she would go do visa. She would go do visa. She would go do visa. After a while, she was like, I can't do this any longer. Let me just relocate. Now, living in Germany precisely gives you some edge, right? So if there was like a meetup or I had to meet my team somewhere, let's say in Netherlands, I don't need to go look for a visa, right? I could just hop
mm,
tomorrow and board if the next available flight or train and just head to the Netherlands, right? If I were to go to the US as an example, I have like I think I have it's going to be a slighter easier going process for me being here than being in Nigeria. If I were to go to the US tomorrow, it's slightly easier, right?
mm,
Basically, these are some of the things you would consider. Again, you're not going to be working with only, I mean, I don't know, again, depends on the company. You might not be working with only colleagues from Europe. So where I currently work, I have colleagues in India generally, and they work at odd hours of the day for me, right? I have colleagues in the US, I have colleagues in Canada. How do you
mm,
intend to keep up with that? And all of these things you have to put into perspective. Again, infrastructure. The last time I was in Nigeria, it was it was terrible for me. I couldn't even have good internet connection to be able to join my meetings, etc., etc. Yeah, so these are some of the constraints that I had then. So if you are able to scale through these constraints of infrastructure and constraints of being able to opt and travel anytime you want seamlessly or easily, then of course, by all means, stay back in Nigeria. But if you can't, I would advise that you move. Otherwise, you put not just yourself, you put the team in jeopardy. You put them like you put them in a very terrible state. And at the end of the day, you would for the sake of the team, you might be asked to go and no hard
mm,
feelings. Yeah, not because you're not competent, but because some of these factors impact the team as a whole, basically.
mm, mm. Wow, that's actually, yeah, that's true. The ease of communication here, you don't have to worry about internet, for example.
You don't have to worry about
Yeah,
because the work
is
and then light goes off. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that.
I see the point, yeah. And also traveling, I also have colleagues in France, for example, who we work together. If I need to go to see them in person, I just hop on a train or a bus or take a flight and then the next couple of hours. But if you want to do that from Nigeria, it might also be difficult, or from anywhere in Africa, it must also be difficult. I see, I see. Okay. I'm trying to avoid questions that has to do with general job and likes. So I'm really trying to skim through. But maybe we take one. I'll just let you answer this one. So this person is asking um also requirement from job description for data science relating to ML. This question is not clear. You need to make the questions clear so that we don't have to struggle. Requirement from job descriptions for data science relating of ML ops, Gen AI, and data engineering tools. No, I still don't understand what you're asking me. It's a bit too complex. So I think that we already went through all the questions. The other questions are more about questions of getting a job, getting into data science, and I don't think we should take our time. So I think we should end the stream here if there are no more questions. Um, I know that the stream is a little bit behind for those who are watching. We are ahead of them, some
Oh,
seconds ahead of them before they get to see it. But anyways, thank you very much, Mr. Dixon. If you Okay, we already answered this question. What are the chances of entry level jobs with basic knowledge in data science? We already answered, talked about entry level jobs earlier. A couple of things that I can add to this before we end the stream is just like I was trying to say, I can recommend some companies that you can check out, like Delivery Heroes, Orlando. They often have openings, and I know that I have friends that they have also brought down, and I know that they also do visa relocation. And like Mr. Dixon said, read through the job description. You would find if those companies help you with relocation or not. A lot of the companies will always advertise on LinkedIn. So what you can do is to set, like he also explained, set a notification for a job in Germany, in Berlin, wherever, and then you will get notified when there's a job that pop up. Prepare your CV in the right way. Like he said, highlight all the key things, and then they would hire you. And I really do like the advice you give about Glassdoor. Checking through the company's interview process on Glassdoor, you will find a lot. So for those who don't know Glassdoor, I'm just going to put it in the chat as well. So with Glassdoor, you will be able to see like people who have been through the interview process of the companies you're trying to get into, and they will be able to help you. So yeah, I think we should end the stream here. Thank you so much, Mr. Dixon. Everybody, please put thank you in the chat so that you can see it. I'm not sure you can see the YouTube. If you are,
that's
you can see it, okay.
right.
Probably you see it later. But anyways, guys, put thank you. If this has been very helpful for you, put a lot of thank you so that you would see it, that we are very grateful. And of course, hopefully one of these days, maybe when I hit 5,000 subscribers, I will do another live stream. If this was very helpful for everybody, maybe we do it again sometime. But I would like to hear back from you. Okay, the thank yous are coming in now. I'd like to hear back from everyone what you think about this live stream. And maybe we do one of these days where I just sit down with everybody, we just talk and answer questions here and there. But anyways, thank you so much for joining in. Thank you for listening. Those who are online, the video will be online. You can go back to the point again, and of course, you can share the video also with your friends and family, and also just drop a lot of thank you for Mr. Dixon. And I'll see you guys soon. Please subscribe again to my YouTube channel. When I hit 5,000, we do this again. Maybe I'm not promising. I'm not promising so that when nobody
Let's help him get to 5,000 so he can do it again.
so that I can do it again. I'm not promising so that nobody comes to ask me why am I not doing a live stream. Yeah, but it was I think I enjoyed this one. It was quite good just to put the knowledge out there that it's possible, and you're seeing somebody who has done it. And if you have any questions about the process also, you can I hope that this would just be something somebody needs to hear to know that it's possible and that they should do it, because if you do that and you move down to this country, I think that it's going to be good for you. It's going to change your life, change your family's life, your kids. Think about all of that. And if you are really good in Nigeria, you can also test yourself against the best here. So why not? Why not do it? I highly recommend doing that. So I'll see you guys soon. There's a new video on my YouTube channel that you guys should go and watch for the week. So watch, share, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.